you've got this responsibility, meaning that in a kind of way you've been the cause of the troubles that your children are going through, but stop blaming yourself, instead react in a constructive way. Okay, let's see what you inherited from your parents and previous generations, and let's eliminate all those elements.
Just a little taster of what is coming up on the show. But first, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel, and also tell your friends and family about this podcast. Please let us know in the comments if you would like to hear any particular topic in relation to sleep or health. Then I will create a show especially for you, just for asking the question. So let's get on with the show. Hello everybody, and welcome back again to another Empowering Family Health podcast. Today on the show, I am super excited. The topic that we're going to be discussing today, all about children and family dynamics, and really helping children and parents to stand in their power. And Elena Perella is here with us today. And before I introduce Elena, let me just read out some of her bio, because she's a really interesting lady. So through the power of conversation, Elena helps high achievers become free to choose how they feel, how they think and behave, so that they can evolve into new human beings. I just love that. And Elena is a personal coach. And what she does is she holds a space for you to have an absolute awareness about yourself. So really stepping into the truth of who you are and accompanying you on your journey towards evolution. So Elena's authority is in the field, which is based on extensive independent research, her own experiences and her own personal journey. And she coached herself through depression, eating disorders, and domestic violence. And she works as a coach in the emotional field for the last 10 years. And Elena knows how to identify and eliminate these obstacles that are a discordant note in our lives. I love that word, discordant, a disharmony. So Elena, you're very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a real pleasure.
It's so great, because I'm really looking forward to our conversation, because like this podcast is called Empowering Family Health, and it really is, the purpose is to educate parents and educate adults, because adults have an impact on children everywhere, whether it's nephews or whatever, school children, whatever, we all interact with children, but as parents we are role models as well, and it's a really, really important topic. And I believe that health begins in the family home, and this is why I like to focus on this area, and especially empowering parents as well. So Elena, before we dive in, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, why you're doing this work, why you think this work is important, and how you can help people?
It is important because we go through a lot of suffering in our lives that is totally unnecessary.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So this is why it's important, because we have to know that it doesn't make any sense to go through so much suffering, and it can be prevented.
Yeah. Suffering is, and from suffering comes pain, emotional pain, and then when we have the emotional pain, it manifests into physical pain. And this can happen over many years, but the suffering is unnecessary. Tell us a little bit more about why it's unnecessary, why we expose ourselves to these pains and sufferings. Why is this happening?
Yeah, I'd like to say that with suffering, what I mean unnecessary suffering is, for example, what I went through. Depression, eating disorders, domestic violence, it was all unnecessary. Yeah. It was passed on to me by my parents in previous generations. Right, I was repeating generational pains. If my parents broke the chain before they had children, I wouldn't have gone through all that.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, Elena, is that our parents and our parents before our parents, so generational, there is suffering. And what I'm hearing is there's like a pattern that keeps getting repeated through the different families?
Yes, it is a pattern, and it can manifest itself in exactly the same way or in different ways, but still the essence is the same. It is a generational pattern, pain, trauma that is passed on to every next generation until someone comes and break the chain.
And it seems to be unnoticed a lot of the time as well. And this is the work that you're doing now, is to help people to be aware of these patterns, aware of who they're being and how they're behaving, how they're thinking. So what is it? Tell us, what does it mean to live an authentic life, to live from a place of who we truly are? What does that mean?
It means that you free yourself from your family's toxic emotional inheritance. And then that's it, it's because then you discover your self, your authentic you, who you really are. It's you without your family's toxic emotional inheritance.
And we live in a world, when we're growing up, when we're children, and we're influenced by our parents, we're influenced by all this toxic stuff. And a lot of it is because we're programmed, and we talk about the subconscious mind and all of this. And a lot of it is programmed, and we, as children, it's programmed into us. We just believe it without even logically thinking about it, because that's how children are wired. So it's literally just absorbed, and it's kind of a part of a normal growing up. Can you talk to us a little bit about how a child perceives this type of environment, how this is absorbed in the subconscious? Can you talk us a little bit about that, how that works?
Well, it starts in the womb of the mother. And if the mother has this toxic inheritance, and the father contributes too, of course, because they both can have this inheritance, and the mother is the vehicle to it. So it starts there, and then when the child is born, is already born with this emotional inheritance, and the parenting style can fuel it. Then in this way, the child develops unhealthy behaviors. He goes through destructive experiences when he's young, when he's a child, an adolescent, or an adult. It depends.
It's fascinating. You say it starts in the womb, and I really believe that. And because we are emotional creatures as well, and we have these needs to survive, and we're all energetic beings as well. So I really believe it does start right from the womb, and we inherit all of this. So Elena, as children, so we're going through life, and we're exposed to all these toxic inheritance, as you say, and some of it is good, but a lot of it is bad as well. So how do we cope? And as teenagers, what are we doing as teenagers to help us? And you had your own experiences. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but you had your own experiences, and we do things to cope with our suffering. Can you talk a little bit about that?
When I became 12, I began to manifest my family's toxic emotional inheritance, and I developed the binge eating disorder, for example.
Right, and that's a big one, isn't it?
And this was a tendency that was passed on to me by my mother, because she has a troubled relationship with food, and she passed on to me also her lack of self-esteem, self-love. The hatred she has for herself, for life, and many other toxic emotions. And so when I became 12, I began to develop unhealthy habits, binge eating. I began to smoke. Wow. I was bullied at school because I began to attract bullies. So it was a very difficult period of my life.
Yeah, and so there's lots of things going on, and things that teenagers expose themselves to in order to cope. And the eating disorders is a really, really big one. And like, I've never had an eating disorder. I've never had that experience myself personally. But from what I know, it's much more than something physical. It's there's a lot of emotions that's attached to that. That's kind of making us feel good or in control. Would that be true?
You know, for example, eating disorders, smoking, and any other addiction, we do that because we have, first of all, we have to fill in a gap inside, an emptiness.
Yeah,
inside.
there's a void. Yeah.
The void, the lack of love. Second, we have to suppress emotions and feelings that hurt. We don't want to feel those. And so we need something from the outside so that it can cover up all those feelings.
That makes sense.
So that we can relax, distract ourselves, not to feel the pain inside.
Yeah, because a lot of time as teenagers, we don't understand. There's a lack of understanding because, we're still developing as teenagers, and even the brain is still developing as a teenagers. In fact, we're not mature until we're in our 20s. In our 20s, I believe the conscious brain,
it's 25. The prefrontal cortex develops fully when we are 25, and the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that controls impulses and emotions.
Yes, because
teenager. Well, you are 25. You are not a teenager anymore. So when you are a teenager, you have this control part of your brain that is not fully developed. Yeah. And you have the dopamine system that without control, the dopamine system is about impulses. So it is kind of out of control. So you have these two parts of yourself that are not aligned. And it is normal that you are a kind of sensational seeker. You seek sensation when you are a teenager. However, if you don't have your family's toxic emotional inheritance, that doesn't happen that way. You don't go through what I went through. You don't do things that are dangerous. Because the family's toxic emotional inheritance drives your behavior. It's not you that chooses to get addicted to smoking or food or to go through another destructive experience. You are forced by this emotional inheritance to do those things.
So it's like having a sense of control as well as suppressing what it is we don't understand. Would I be right in saying that?
Can you repeat it, please?
So it's like we want to have control over the situation because nobody likes to feel out of control or being controlled. So there's a lack of power. So by suppressing all the painful emotions and the suffering, we are controlling that. We are choosing to do that, even though it's not necessarily the right thing for us. It's not healthy. So it's like, am I right in saying it's like we are having, by doing this, by smoking, by drinking, even though it's not good for our health, we are having control over that ourselves, but it's also suppressing the pain.
Well, it's not a choice. It's not a conscious choice. You are not choosing anything. No. It's something inside of you that is choosing for you.
Yes, exactly. So on a subconscious level, so on a deeper level.
Yes, and for a teenager, it's more difficult because he's still developing those parts of the brain, of the internal biological system. It's difficult for us, the adults. How many adults there are that have addictions?
Yeah, and the addiction is a really big topic right now. And, would it be true, Elena, if parents or even teenagers, in fact, understood this simple process of this brain and the subconscious and the mind and how we're developing, what you just explained about the dopamine pathway and the dopamine system and how that works in relation to addiction. And if that was understood by teenagers, because I don't think it is by an awful lot. Do you think then that that would help them to discover something about themselves, give them more control?
If they carry inside themselves the family's toxic emotional inheritance, doesn't help.
Okay.
No, because you know, how many of us know that, for example, binging, it's not good. Eating junk food is not good. Still, we do it.
Yeah,
but we know it. We understand it.
Yeah,
if we do it, we are not in control. So knowing that it causes illnesses and how these illnesses develop, and doesn't make any. It doesn't help. No, it doesn't help, because this inheritance is stronger than we are. Otherwise, it would be simple, very easy.
Exactly. And it's certainly not simple. It's certainly not simple. And all these different things that we do. And I think, Elena, being through the experience yourself, you know firsthand what it's like. And you help people, you help teenagers, families, parents, and teenagers to understand and to help them to discover and see why, I suppose, why this is happening to them.
Yes, absolutely. At the moment, one of my clients is an old teenager, and I am guiding her and her mother too, because it has to happen this way. If the parent is not coached and supported, then it's useless to help a child.
That is so true.
Because they have to do the work home.
Yeah, so both the parent and the child.
Yeah, but they are both very aware of this toxic inheritance, and very happy to see that this is the cause of the troubles. And it's very easy. If you are ready, and I tell you that you have this toxic inheritance, then I help you become aware of every element that you inherited, like I am doing with this with this teenager. And by talking and having conversation, then you little by little become aware. You see the tendencies that you have, and then transformation happens, evolution, because you can eliminate those. For example, this young lady inherited the hatred of her father, you know, and this person hates everybody, he hates life, and she repeats exactly the same phrases. She has the same tendencies to isolate herself, to distrust people, to hate everybody.
So and now
she's and the mother said to her, "You have this from your father, not from me," and she's right. Yeah.
Wow. I love that you're working with the parent as well, because too often the parent will say there's something not right with my child, and the parent doesn't accept that in most cases the child has inherited it from them. So it's not just the child that needs to be worked with per se. You know, the parent can step in and really help, and it's all in the acknowledging and the awareness, being able to see it and saying yes, you know, that is being aware of it, I suppose.
Unfortunately, many parents don't like to hear that, you know, because it's like, oh, I caused that, it's my fault.
Being responsible.
You know, don't see it like that. Don't see that you are guilty of the troubles that your children and teenagers are going through. See this as something that happens. Unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah.
And open your heart to allow yourself and your children to have a better life. Because this mother, is very open to that. She said to me, "Okay, I know it. You will crucify me, but that's okay. No problem." You know? That's the spirit. So you can save the life of your children. That's the spirit.
I love it.
She doesn't mind. She said, "Okay, tell me what you see in me."
She's very open.
That I passed on to my daughter, and let's eliminate it. So I
love it. So she's very willing. That's what I can hear. She's very willing, and she wants to see the transformation, and she's very open to being coached, and for you to see something, you know, that you can help her work through. And I love that she is not blaming herself. I think that's the key, isn't it? Is for the parent not to blame themselves.
Yes. In the beginning she was, and I told her, wait, okay, you've got this responsibility, meaning that in a kind of way you've been the cause of the troubles that your children are going through, but stop blaming yourself, instead react in a constructive way. Okay, let's see what you inherited from your parents and previous generations, and let's eliminate all those elements. And you know, and this toxic inheritance was forcing her daughter to not go to school.
Wow.
She almost lost a year. And now, just it happened last week, she started over again. She's going again to school. So I was so happy for her. I thought, okay, that's it. Because now she's feeling lighter. She's eliminating all those heavy, I could say, ballast and weights that she had inside her heart. And now she's making room for herself to grow and evolve.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, Elena, because you've literally given that teenager and her mother a new lease of life. Yeah. And, you know, there's nothing wrong. I don't believe that, you know, our children need to be fixed. It's just they need to see themselves, to rediscover themselves.
Yeah, they need to eliminate the toxic inheritance. They can keep, of course, the good things, also the negative things, because negative and positive, bad and good, if they are cleansed from the toxic inheritance, create balance inside of you. It's the toxic that has to be eliminated so that you can be your authentic self. And she is discovering that, and she's seeing herself in a different way. She's becoming little by little less her father and becoming more herself. And she inherited also things from her mother. So she's eliminating also those toxic things that she doesn't need.
I love the way you use the word becoming, because we already are. Like it's already there inside us. We've just forgotten, or it needs to be activated again. Because our soul essence is always there. Actually, and speaking about soul, the name of your website, let me see. Can you tell us what that actually means? Because there is something behind that.
Yeah, the name is 𝘚𝘦𝘯𝘶, and 𝘚𝘦𝘯𝘶 is a Sardinian language. It indicates the ability to see things for what they really are. And this is an ability that we all have, you know, but it is covered up or not active because of the toxic inheritance. Once you eliminate the toxic inheritance, then you start seeing things for what they really are. You won't have perceptions anymore. You won't look at life or at yourself with perceptions, but you will see the truth. Yeah,
because we have the perceptions through the filters, which is all the layers. Brilliant. So you can get rid of all that fog and the different lenses, as you say. Elena, right now at the moment, you know, teenagers and families, they're on top of what's already there, you know, from inheritance and social conditioning and all of that. There's another layer now, what we're all experiencing at the moment, more challenges. And teenagers, on top of what they already have, it's even more challenging for them. And, you know, I really believe that children and teenagers deserve to have a childhood, a happy, healthy childhood with fun and laughter. And there's too much seriousness and chaos in the world at the moment. What can you say to a teenager to help them to look for help, I suppose, if they need help, if they're in a place of feeling hopeless and lonely? What would you advise if a teenager is listening to this podcast now? What would you advise them to do or to look out for?
Well, the safest space should be home. So your parents, you know,
Absolutely. So having that conversation, and you talk about conversation.
Yeah. But in order to do that, parents have to be open to receive their children, because it's the parents that have to invite their children. The children have to feel safe enough to open up and tell about themselves, their suffering, their insecurities. Yeah.
And children need to feel seen and heard. We always talk about this, you know, in my generation, it was children should be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
And that's a layer, isn't it? That's an inheritance.
That's a toxic belief. It's a toxic
Absolutely.
belief.
Children need to be seen and they need to be heard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're a human being with needs and wants as well. It's the same as adults. So so children do need to be seen and heard. So I think what you're saying is to have that open and trusting relationship between the parents and the children, and children absolutely do need to be heard. And you know, what they're feeling is real. You know, there's no such thing as, you know, I know when I was growing up and I was told, oh, stop that whinging, stop that crying, or suck it up, you know, all these kind of terms. But it's really important that children, what they're feeling is real. It is like, it's real, whatever they're feeling, that needs to be addressed, but it needs to be acknowledged. But I'd be right in saying that.
Absolutely. And often it's not only that, but when children and adolescents talk about that, but it's also that you hear them, but also when they do not speak. Yeah? So when you see that your child doesn't want to go to school and say anything, when your child or adolescent is spending too much time with the mobile, or you know, when they display aggressive behavior often, those are all signs, that should make ring a bell. And then you have to pay attention. What is my child trying to say me?
Yes, and you said when they're behaving in a certain way, and a lot of the time, you know, when children have outbursts or impulsive behaviors, it's an indication, it's a clue really, isn't it? You know, so pay attention to that, and that needs to be addressed. And you mentioned something else as well, technology. And I just want to touch on technology, because especially in the last couple of years, and you know, we spoke previously, Elena, and we were talking about how technology is just booming and it's grown exponentially, and technology is great, but it can be very dangerous as well. So what's your experience around technology? What is it we need to watch out for when it comes to teenagers using technology?
Yeah, the use of technology. I heard that, and I know that many teenagers, when they go to sleep, they actually don't sleep, but they use their phone by chatting, watching videos. Also, this teenager that I am guiding, she almost doesn't sleep because she has always the mobile. Right?
I experience that a lot as well.
And this is dangerous not only for your body, because the radiation is very strong. It is damaging. It's like putting your head into a microwave. You know, you wouldn't do it, but then you hold the phone, you know, in front of you or at the side of your head. So, and parents could little by little make agreement with their children, you know, to limit the use of that. But the children need to understand the importance of it, and also you have to understand why my child dives into the mobile, why there is this attachment, because attachment to technology can be, well, actually is a sign that there is something deeper.
I love that.
You know, probably your child, your adolescent is trying to escape something, feelings that hurt, emotions that hurt, anxiety. I mean, there is something inside that is forcing your child to using the mobile too often.
And to be constantly on at the dinner table, bringing it to bed. You know, these places and times that really we shouldn't be using technology. That goes for all of us. And I know teenagers, a lot of teenagers, they bring the mobile, they sneak the mobile phone up to bed. And then there's that implication with the blue light stopping the hormones for sleep and the radiation, as you said, and also that dopamine activating that dopamine pathway, which is related to addiction, you know, and we can be addicted to our phones as well. So there's lots of different ways we're all addicted, you know, on some level to things. It's habits. Bad habits. So I'm really glad that we touched on that as well. I'm just looking.
But I would like to say something. You can be free from addictions. You can become free from addictions. And if you eliminate the root cause, then there is nothing from the outside that can control you.
Oh, that's beautiful, really. Because there's always a reason when we understand and recognize why we're acting and behaving in this way. And I think if we ask ourselves on a personal level, why did I just do that? Why did I, and you may not know the answer there and then, but the brain is always looking for an answer, and it might pop up a week later or even a month later or whatever. This is, ask that question why, because the brain is always looking to find out. But Elena, we're coming near the end, and my God, I feel like we've only been talking for 10 minutes.
There's so much to say.
My God, yeah, but it's really important information, and this dynamics with the family, and who you are being as a parent or as a teenager really impacts the whole family. So I think being responsible, I think that's the key word, being responsible for who we are. So having courage to understand why we act and behave this way, and what is it that we've possibly inherited, because we've all inherited something,
Yes.
And that's your experience, and you've been through your experiences of the eating disorders and the domestic violence and depression, and there's a lot of that at the moment, and it's suffering and unnecessary, as you say as well. And we can take control of our lives again by opening up that conversation and just speaking from the heart of how we're really feeling, and for that to be acknowledged. And you do this work with people. Can you tell us how people work with you? How they can actually work with you, Elena?
What do you mean?
What kind of coaching? Is it one-to-one coaching or group coaching?
Yes, it's one-to-one. It is one-to-one. Yes, it's I offer a program, 26 hours program. It's a 6 months program, and then we start the process of identifying and eliminating the family's toxic emotional inheritance, so that your true self can finally arise. And little by little, the more you eliminate, the more you're powerful, more powerful you become.
Yes.
And then eventually you will be free to choose how to feel, what to think, and how to behave. Nothing can control you from the outside.
I love that, and I can see the smile on your face as well, because when you have
I experienced that already.
Yes,
so I know how it is living like this.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, because you will have such a high level, your intuition, for example. You will see things, you will see through people, you will know what the right decision is or the wrong decision, and then you will change direction, or maybe go through it, but with the awareness of where you are walking. I mean, it's amazing,
because you're not focused on all the worries and the concerns. So instead, when that's taken care of, now you're free and open to look at what you want to create in your life and cause in your life. That's so powerful.
Yes. And you will be in touch also with your negative emotions, not toxic, negative, which are part of us. And negative emotions won't consume you.
Yes, you recognize them.
Yeah, you recognize them, you allow them, you experience them, you go through them peacefully. And you will enjoy your positive emotions.
Yeah, gorgeous. And it's the yin and the yang, and we have to experience the negative to have all the good stuff as well. But it's when we're aware and when we can have power over it, and we recognize, as you say.
Problems happen.
Yes,
so that's life. But once you're free from your family's toxic emotional inheritance, they will be situational problems. So not caused by your family's toxic emotional inheritance.
Yes.
And because of this, you will go through these problems, you will solve them in a totally different way.
Yes.
And from those problems, then you will learn. You don't learn from toxic hardships, what is caused by your family's toxic emotion. You don't learn anything. It's a waste of time, energy, health, money. Because everything is written inside of you.
Yeah. And what I can hear as well, Elena, in all this is life happens, as you said, and we can deal with them more powerfully, and we can bounce back a lot quicker when we do the work. And you know what? Life would be very boring if everything was all rosy and sweet, wouldn't it? So when we have the tools to overcome the challenges in our life and bounce back quicker. And also, you know, when you're doing work with your clients, what I can hear is, you know, it's not just a 1 hour session and then everything will be cleared. It's a work in progress, and it's experiencing life with these new tools and these new understandings and applying them to your life is where you'll have the transformation and evolve into a better human being and become a better human being. A
totally new human being, free from family's toxic conditioning, societal toxic conditioning. It's a new, I could say, a new species. You know?
Yeah. Elena, we've come to the end. I just want to ask you to leave our listeners with one really empowering thought. You know, what can you, if you were to just say in one sentence, you know, for people to be empowered and for people to have the best life ever, what would you advise, or how would you advise people to live their life?
Oh, it's difficult.
An empowering thought. Or something you advise people to watch out for or recognize, or even just sum it up in one word.
Well, maybe one thing, start reflecting on yourself and your behavior. Observe yourself and your behavior. And at the moment that you have to make a decision, ask yourself, is it me or is it my depression? Is it me or is it a toxic anger? Who is deciding?
Perfect, Elena. That is powerful. Perfect. So be aware and observe and reflect. And ask yourself those questions. Where is it coming from? I love that. What a great way to end. Elena, it's been a pleasure. I really have just some great wisdom nuggets from you, and really ones that will help to empower people listening or watching back on the video. So Elena, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I just want to acknowledge you for who you are as well in the world, and all the work that you're doing. It's just so powerful and really to be acknowledged. So thank you, Elena, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.